smoke is quieting down. Seems like we've got to a lot of the smoke. Dub, you got smoke?
So on Patreon episode titled Why is Silent, Immani finally confronted Joe Budden, addressing Joe's recent remarks about him. Now, Joe had labeled Immani as timid and hinted that, he was in some way a punk, but I ain't really saying the real P word the way Immani say Joe made him feel. Now, Immani had already made his stance known in episode 766, standing firm on how he felt about Joe's characterization of him and DDG. But even though Immani spoke up about his grievance, it still seemed like Joe didn't really care. In fact, it felt as if Joe dismissed Immani's feelings entirely. The way Joe runs his podcast is heavily built around chaos and pushing the boundaries. Look at the files.
Anybody here has a bone or grievance to get out? I don't even feel right saying bone.
I was about to say, you still bone.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. If anybody here has any grievances or any problems that they want to get off their chest, please feel free. I know E said I did something shady.
Oh, no, you just painted me as a pussy.
When? How you paint you as a pussy?
Over the DDG thing. Then I heard a little clip. I heard a little clip of you on there talking. Like, yo, do me a favor, all you niggas clear out none of that Immani pussy shit. Because of my whole little stance with the whole little... And I do think as friends, we need to hold each other accountable. So when I see Joe wrong about something, I think he was wrong. I say, yo, you were wrong. Joe, in terms, makes his joke. Nigga, clear out, nigga. None of that timid shit. All right, cool. It's cool. It's cool for the pod, bro. Get it. Then you double down on it and then go on the spaces or somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. Cause then them niggas started, shut up, move, nigga, all some money shit. I ain't with none of that shit. I'm with chaos.
So now everybody just looks at me like I'm just the nigga.
Now, Joe Budden just wanted to, let everybody air out whatever they needed to, making himself, a fair boss, which honestly, most employees wouldn't do. But it sounds like Immani had already expressed his discomfort to Joe behind the scenes, mentioning how he felt Joe had been, a bit shady toward him during the DDG conversation. Now, personally, I don't think Joe was being shady. He's usually direct. And Joe even tripled down on his stance when Immani brought it up in this clip. In episode 766, Joe shared his thoughts, then went on spaces to further solidify, his point. And in this clip, it's like, he tripled down on it, and Joe flat out told him, that he's with the chaos. So, Immani kind of was just left there, looking like, all right, so I'm going to look like the, that God in or whatever. Just look a little crazy. But here's the question. Is Immani wrong for calling Joe out and telling him he was out of line with his comments on DDG? Now, we know Joe wasn't aware of the extent of DDG's online following, especially how he transitioned his vlogging audience into, his music platform and into all these like different platforms and all of that. But think about it. Joe wasn't necessarily wrong for his reaction. A huge part of what draws people to the Joe Budden podcast is that raw, like, barbershop talk. It's a vibe. Now, Joe often says what's on his mind. And in that raw, unfiltered environment, people will say things like, yo, who is this guy? What did he do? You know what I mean? It's just a part of that laid back conversational flow. People in the room usually would just fill in the gaps and everyone moves on with a little laughter, maybe some joke side comments or whatever. That's just how, barbershop talk go, whatever. That's how people want to watch some podcast that's like that. Feel me? Now, how is Joe wrong for using this approach to get information? He throws out an opinion or question and lets the people around him clarify. That's his way of keeping the show lively and interactive. But the way he brushed off Immani's grievances was very dismissive and seemed to send the message that Immani should, maybe avoid bringing up issues like that again for a fear that, Joe might explode. Immani's response to Joe saying that joke might be cool for the pod carried an undertone of, yeah, it's fine for entertainment, but don't talk to me like that outside of the pod. But the lines between the podcast and real life are blurry. Joe has a way of portraying people on the show that can bleed into their personal lives. We've seen Immani's reaction to this firsthand. I remember Immani telling his family, friends, and even fans not to reach out to him about podcast stuff, which tells us how real things can get behind the scenes. The show's environment can push co-hosts out of character or spark resentment, even among people close to them. Now, Immani was known to be a bit of a loose cannon in his younger years. And back then, he had no problem with boom bopping you real quick, if someone crossed him. But he's grown older, matured, and he's managed to put that wild side to rest. Yet, Joe's narratives, intentionally or not, can trigger the people around Immani to say something that brings out his old self. So is it fair for Joe to joke about people in certain ways, if he has no intention on clearing the things up when asked? Like Joe thrives on chaos and rarely shuts down narratives because, well, he loves the buzz, that the chaos brings. But should Immani just fall back, when he feels Joe is wrong, accepting that Joe will always argue his point or pull the "this is my podcast" card? Or should Immani continue speaking his mind, proving that he's not afraid to stand up for himself and making good content in the process? In my opinion, Joe needs that kind of pushback from his co-host because it creates engagement and often leads to genuine learning moments. And let's be honest, while most personalities in media will likely go the extra mile to research or approach a new figure like DDG more respectfully, Joe doesn't. He still offers that unfiltered, raw commentary, which is a major reason people tune in. Joe's not interested in always being right. He's interested in the realness of the moment. Right, so I got some questions for y'all. Do you think Immani was justified in calling Joe out for his comments, or do you feel he's being overly sensitive? And should Immani just let certain things slide to avoid conflict, or is it better for him to keep standing his ground for the sake of his own reputation? Right? I don't know. Now, does Joe's preference for chaos make the podcast more entertaining, or does it create an unhealthy environment for the co-hosts outside of podcasting? Like when they get off the show, do you think these jokes really pour into their life so much that he should just kill all the narratives? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. And we'll be back with the files.
My guy Dub too. That's my man though.
Gang gang.
That's my man, Big Dub.